Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be setting up my bullet journal for September, and this theme was highly inspired by a trip I just took to Hokkaido. I know going into September most people tend to lean more towards fall theme setups, but seeing the greenery in Hokkaido I had to do another flower theme. But I think the colors of these flowers are more muted, so it doesn't feel that summery and can pass as an autumn theme. So we are starting with the cover page, and I'm drawing different kinds of foliage at the bottom of the page. I first use water-based markers like the Tombow here and the Crayola super tips to make the base shape of the flowers, and then I use Sarasa Clips to add the details and the stems to the flowers. All these Sarasa Clips I use are from the vintage set, so they really suit the vibe I'm going for, and I will list all the stationery I used in the description so that in case you want to use the same things as I did, you don't have to do any guesswork and you can just look at the description. Speaking of the flowers I saw in Hokkaido, I actually vlogged my whole experience there. I've never visited Hokkaido in the summer. I have always went in the winter to snowboard with my dad, so it was a very weird and wonderful experience to see everything covered in green instead of white and not being cold all the time. So if you want to experience summer in Hokkaido with me, I will leave the link to my vlogging channel in the description. It would mean the world to me if you could go check it out, but if you decide that it's not your vibe, then it's okay. But if you're interested, make sure to check out the link in the description. I'm using three main colors for the foliage: green, mustard yellow, and a brick red, and drawing them with different heights so that there is some variety. I feel like flower themes are what I usually go for when I don't know what theme to do, but this month my mind is so full of flower imagery because if you also read books, I just ordered my copy of Map of the Other Lands, so I reread Emily Wild's Encyclopedia of Fairies while I was in Hokkaido, surrounded by flowers, and I really felt like I was in a fairy tale having the time of my life, so I had to do a flower theme for this month. This month's setup was really quick to do. The part that took the longest time are these flowers, and the other components are quite simple. At the end, I only ended up with an hour of footage, so I only sped up the footage 2 times instead of 3 or 4 like in some other months, but I don't even know if that's something you'll notice. This year, September feels kind of strange for me because it's the first September where I'm not going back to school. Well, there was a period of time where I was homeschooled, so I didn't have a back to school then as well. But if we're talking about traditional school systems, I have no more back to schools. I completed my degree and I have no interest in doing a master's, so there will be no more back to schools for me. I still haven't had the feeling of missing the university life. As of this moment, I much prefer life after uni, but I think that feeling will come at some point. If it's been a few years since you've graduated, maybe you can tell me in the comments if you ever missed being a student, or if you're still in school, maybe you can share if you look forward to being out of school or do you like the student life. For the September title, I just wrote it in cursive, but I split it up so that there are 3 characters per line, and then I went over it a second time to make the lines thicker. Moving on to the left page, I'm making a monthly calendar this time, which I think is also one of the reasons why I got this setup done so quickly. I wanted to combine the calendar with the cover page this month because for the other months, I don't really flip back to the cover and quote pages because it doesn't serve any purpose except for introducing the month and looking pretty, so I don't get to see it as much as I would like to. The calendar, on the other hand, is something I use very often, so having the calendar here means that I will get to see my cover page more often. I'm drawing the calendar grid, and each box is 3 grid spaces wide by 5 grid spaces tall, which is quite a bit smaller, but I can write pretty small, so I don't think I will have a problem using this calendar. Then at the top of the calendar, I'm highlighting the section with a green Tombow, which is where I will write in the days of the week. And then I'm drawing more flowers. I made the flowers not overlap the calendar so that they look like they are behind. And I feel like I haven't really taken advantage of the paper in this notebook. If you didn't know, this is the Rêverie journal from MELLOW Days, and it has watercolor paper. In my initial setup of this notebook and the first monthly setup, I used a lot of paint, and I really like how the colors shows up on this paper. But after that, I was kind of lazy to take up my paints and just stuck to colored markers. That being said, I also really like how water-based markers look on this paper as well. It dries really slowly, but is so nice to apply. But this paper can also be frustrating at times. Yes, the markers apply really smoothly and it handles paint incredibly well, but because of that texture, for some thinner nib pens, like the gel pens, the ink will skip and it's difficult to write on, so depending on your needs, this notebook might not be for you, but still try it out because I think it's really unique. For the leaves, I didn't fill them in completely. I left some parts white and also added details with a white gel pen, partly because it's difficult to get gel pens running smooth on this paper, but I also think that it adds more texture and makes it look more organic. And if you're wondering about my thumb, I injured my thumb trying to pry open a bottle without a bottle opener, and I figured that it might be more pleasant to look at a bandage than an open wound, so I definitely learned my lesson and I hope it's not too distracting. At the edge of the calendar here, I made the top of the flowers poked out from the side, and then I'm drawing this green plant, and you'll see in a second that I actually soaked the binding thread of the notebook with the green Tombow, which I think is quite a cute mistake. It's the natural part of the notebook and I'm embracing it. And then I moved on to writing in the days of the week and the dates, which my hand was aching at this point. This month's setup gave me a lot of hand cramps. I don't know if it's to do with the way I drew the flowers or how I'm holding my pen because of my hurting thumb, but my hand was so sore by the time I finished. Can we also talk about how this September starts on a Sunday and ends on a Monday? Which means that the first and the final row of the calendar has only one day, which is so dissatisfying to me. And that is the calendar and cover page done. Next, we'll move on to the mood tracker. I'm first making the color code, so I picked 4 colors to make little circles with faces on them. Other than that, there won't be much decoration on this page right now because I was thinking that it might be fun to draw a flower each day for my mood using the four colors. So you might be able to see the pencil sketch for the stems. At first, I was going to also go over the stems in green, but I figured that some days I might not want the stems to be green depending on what kind of flower I'm drawing. So I decided to just leave it blank for now and write in the numbers 1 to 30 underneath each stem instead. And then the final page I'm setting up is my mood tracker. For this month, each box of the mood tracker will have a flower on the side and then their stems will curl down and around to form a box. I don't know if I explained that well, but you'll see what I mean in a second. It was actually quite difficult to place the flowers because I couldn't draw them too far into the boxes, otherwise they will get in the way of the numbers. Maybe I should have sketched out the placement beforehand, but this idea just came up as I was setting up the bullet journal and I just decided to roll with it. And my hand was hurting so bad on this page. I definitely rushed through some parts to get it over with quickly so I can go rest my hand, which is why some lines are a little wobbly, more wobbly than usual. It was especially hard to keep the lines of the Tombows and Crayola super tips small and thin because if you add more pressure, the lines of these markers will get thicker, and when you have a cramping hand, it is very difficult to keep the pressure light. On this last box here, I smudged the ink with my palm a little bit because water-based things just take longer to dry on this paper. I don't mind imperfections like these. Well, if it's a very precise piece of artwork, then I would mind, but in my bullet journal, I try to embrace it, and I think a smudge here and there is the charm of bullet journaling. In this section in the bottom right, I'm writing in a little quote because we didn't have a quote page at the beginning, so I figured I would add in a quote here. The quote says one thing at a time because especially right now, I've completed uni and now freelancing for multiple companies. Most days I feel like, oh my god, I have to do this and I have to do that, and I have to send this to that person and think about a million different things, whereas if I just focus on one thing at a time, I feel like I would have an easier and happier time doing my tasks. So I just added a highlighted section to the top of each box for the header of the habits, and I'm writing in the dates and we will be done with September's setup. So here's a flip through of the spreads we made today. It feels quite refreshing having the calendar at the front of the setup, and the more darker shades are a nice change from the bright colors we've had for the past few months. And please do check out my vlogging channel and my adventures in Hokkaido if you are interested. Everything is linked down below and it would mean the world to me. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Have a wonderful day or night. Bye!